to you from ABC KMET 1490 AM. You've tuned into Julie Talks Money, and I am so delighted that you're here to join me today. It's Friday. Yay, happy Friday. We're always glad when Fridays come around. I'm definitely happy about it because then I get to talk to you again. And I think that you're going to really enjoy the show that I've got today lined up for you, where I've got a couple of special guests. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the disruption and how you pivot into doing different things to continue with money and making money. I'm your host, Julie Phelan, and I'm a financial life coach. I help you go from where you are now to where it is that you want to be in your financial life, and I help you work out the flows in your financial life. Now, everybody's got some different flows that we have to deal with. One, of course, is the knowledge flow, and hopefully my guest and I will help to increase your knowledge and get you into a little bit more comfort level with what it is that you know, because one of the things I like to say is that you don't know what you don't know. So how would you know how to do something if you have no idea, no knowledge about it whatsoever? So that's one of the things that I try to help with. I've got a project with somebody who's been a guest a couple times named Rebecca Fernandez, and we are helping her in the whole process of becoming a first-time home buyer, especially with down payment assistance things. Now, she had no knowledge that those kinds of things existed. So that's just one example of the kind of things that you don't know what you don't know. And hopefully by working with me, you'll be able to learn more and also have tools in your toolbox to earn more, grow it, keep your money, and protect your money. Those are some of the four main tenets that I talk about. Now, one of the things also is that your work life, your workflow, because let's face it, that is one of the major components of life, but it's also part of your financial life, because getting your financial house in order and working on your finances and growing your assets and growing your financial portfolio is work, right? It doesn't just happen. It's not just a dream that you have of winning the lottery or of money that's just going to drop into your lap somehow or sometime, or maybe you'll have some kind of money that you inherit from a rich relative. You know, you actually have to work at it. Just like with anything else, you don't have to become an accountant, but you do have to learn some terminology and you have to learn a process, because just like anything else, a process and a system will help you to get more in tune with the flow of your financial life, and you have to work at it. So, of course, the final thing, not the final thing, but one of the most important things is cash flow. Now, cash flow is what we call money that comes into you, and passive income is a form of cash flow. And that is money that comes in whether you're working or not. You know, it comes in when you're sleeping. It comes in anytime you have it. Rental income is one of the things that can produce cash flow. And cash flow is basically how much money is left after you pay expenses for whatever it is that you have. Dividends are also part of cash flow that you might get from stocks. And that is money that a company pays you for holding the stock, because basically you have a part ownership in the company, but they're also using your money, borrowing it. So I don't know if you knew that, but there's a little interesting thing for you too. Basically, dividends that you might get are cash flow. When you sell a stock, you get a gain. That's not necessarily cash flow, because it's not something that's flowing. That is just something that happens once. And then, of course, there's going to be taxes on that, and taxes is yet another thing that we have to look at and work on, because that's part of the flow. So one of the things that you have to do when you're working on stuff is a four-step process that I have, and I use with my coaching clients and students. And essentially, just briefly, that is going from your vision and then creating an investment policy statement, and then creating an order of operations, and then looking at legacy. Those are pretty much four key things that everybody needs to know, and I help you work out. Now, the vision, like I just mentioned, is actually a vision. It's not a dream. When you have a dream, that is just something that, oh, well, someday I'm going to lose 20 pounds, or someday I'm going to run a marathon, or someday, whatever that might be. Someday I'll be rich. But you don't know how it's going to happen, and you don't have any plan in place, right? If you were going to run a marathon, you wouldn't just be dreaming about it and then one day just suddenly go, hey, I'm going to the starting line and I'm signing up for this marathon, or even a 5K that's down the street. You have to plan for it, just like you plan for anything else. You have to train for it. You have to prepare yourself and get ready. And that's one of the things that we do to make that dream into a vision that is achievable. And there's a whole lot of different ways you can do that, but the main thing is having the vision and then saying, this is where I want to be in 1 year or 6 months even. Like if you're training for something, you're going to have to go on some training runs. You're going to have to build up your stamina. You're going to have to build up your muscles. You're going to have to learn how to pace yourself and how to eat right and how to do all kinds of different things that you need to do in order to be able to run 5 miles, 15 miles, 20, 26 miles. It'd be crazy, right? You can't just go out and do it. So you have the vision that you want to run a marathon and complete the marathon. So now you have to take the steps to do it. That's an example kind of having a vision and then having a way to make that vision come into reality. So when you know what it is that you're going to be doing to make that vision a reality, that is kind of comparable to the investment policy statement that we work on, because those are going to be the steps. What is it you're going to do? Well, you're not going to interrupt your training for a marathon by mountain hiking or by suddenly deciding you're going to bike, unless you're doing a triathlon. So you're going to be doing the different steps. That's the other thing that we work with you on. And then your order of operations, how are you going to do it? What is that program going to be? What is that, if you will, again with the metaphor, your training schedule? How are you going to be doing that? How are you going to have these achievable, measurable goals and steps that you're going to get to? And then we talk about the legacy. And if you'd be interested in talking to me and having a free consultation, by all means, call me at 626-460-1188, at 626-460-1188. Now, one of the things that we've had with the flows in our life has been a huge disruption in everything. If you can believe it, it's been over 8 weeks, I think, since we actually have gone into lockdown, certainly a little bit longer since we've been affected by coronavirus and COVID-19. And at this point, I was told this, or I read this somewhere, and I really kind of like it now. Normal, you want to ask what is normal? Well, I'll tell you, normal right now is only a setting on a dryer. There's no such thing as normal as we knew it before. So what we have now is not even a new normal, but is something that you had to do to change what it is that you're doing in order to keep on having some income, or to keep on having some sort of thing with the lifestyle, and to keep on actually flowing. If you want to go with the water metaphor, basically we've been flowing along for a long time with the markets having great big huge run-ups in the bull market, but now we've hit some rapids. So, a lot of times you're going to have still waters, other times you're going to have a rapidly flowing river, and then you're going to have some rocks that are going to be creating some bumps in the river, and you're going to have to navigate them and figure out a way to do that. Or you're going to have to take your boat out of the water and maybe go downstream and find another place to put in. That's one of the things we're going to be talking about today with my guest. How have you been able to pivot, or have you been able to pivot, or is there a way that you can pivot during this time of COVID-19 into a new way of doing business and a new way of making money, or keeping your business afloat, or taking a look at this as an opportunity to discover and think about alternatives and what it is that you can do, especially if it's maintaining your cash flow, or if you can definitely help somebody out. That is a fantastic thing. So my first guest today is Clayton Powell, and he is owner of Shelter Studios and Redemption Radio. And I've done a lot of filming at his studio for some of my YouTube videos and for some of the programs that we've got going. And one of the things that Clayton has done is to pivot. Instead of being a recording studio for bands, he has found a new way to help others as well as keeping his business afloat. So we're going to be talking to him a little bit about that, or a lot about that. Good morning, Clayton. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning, Julie. Thank you for having me.
So I'm so delighted that you're here. So as I mentioned, and we had talked about before, one of the things that you have done with Shelter Studios is found a way to help people in the community and utilize your studio for people who can no longer have gatherings, especially with churches. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, what we're doing here is, since churches can't gather at this time, or for those who can, they're having a hard time, particularly under the governor's new mandate. We're allowing them to come utilize the studio with 2 or 3 members of their worship team, and they can shoot video for their worship services here, or even if the pastor wants to preach the sermon here, they can come shoot the videos here. without having to be in a situation where they have to utilize the staff, because a lot of churches had their staff had to be laid off temporarily or permanently. So churches are able to come in here and record what they need to record to get their video content and their audio content ready for their YouTube channels, Facebook, Instagram, Vimeo, Twitch for those who use that platform. But that's what we're doing to help mitigate the circumstances that they're currently under. And for we in some cases we do it for nominal fees, in other cases we do it for free. But generally speaking, the cases where we do it for a nominal fee is usually where the church refuses to take our free services because they want to make sure that they have our business out, and so they pay for our services.
And that's great. Now, you also have the capability of broadcasting live, right? I mean, we do a lot of Zoom meetings. Business people do that. But there are several platforms, whether it's Zoom or Facebook Live or Google Hangouts or meetings. Do you utilize any of those come from the studio?
Well, yes. You and I spoke about, we have a free music lessons program here. But we also have a music lessons program that is attached to a school. And so we use the Zoom platform because we have a camera set up, because as you know, we have a television studio here as well. And because we have a camera set up, we can set up multiple camera angles so that our students can see what the instructors are doing. We have software that is being used like Ridiculous for those of you who are teaching music lessons, and you're looking for a piano software where you play and it can be seen on the screen. And through the Zoom app, you have a share your screen function where the student can see what you're playing. The student has the same software. They can do the same. The software is absolutely free. It's at www.ridiculous.com, MIDICULOUS.com. But again, the software is absolutely free. That's one of the softwares we use. We also, of course, use the Zoom platform, which is becoming very famous. I wish you talking about money, I wish I had bought stock in Zoom.
Right. It's been very popular. Now, the churches are using that also, though, right? So it's not just recorded sermons or recorded things. So you can do a live streaming of a live service on a Sunday, right?
Well, so the platform that we use things like Facebook Live and YouTube Live and Instagram Live, and you can because we have cameras, we have larger upload speeds here. People are able to come in here and actually do Facebook Live, YouTube Live for their church services or for the worship services. We stream a worship service every Thursday night that's based out of Calvary Chapel, Beaumont. Their worship team comes in. Lately, they've been having guests from other churches stop by and be a part of the service, and there's usually 3 or 5 of them. And then because there's only 3 or 5 of them, we can separate them far enough apart in the stage setup, and the engineer works in the control room with the door closed, so that we are. And you and I talked about the studio environment being a natural environment for social distancing and for protection from other individuals, but so that you can still work, because the environments of the studio are naturally segregated. But yeah, we use those social media platforms to do the live work and the live broadcasting, which we have the capabilities of. Hey, if you have your program and you're looking for something to do like that, you definitely can come down to the studio and get that done. We have all the software and the equipment in the world to get it done for you. So there's no.
Now, how did you even come to that? Because I know you've been involved in your church and you're a fan of Sir John Templeton, but you also, I suspect you were not doing this before, and that this was something you probably never even thought about doing until coronavirus and COVID hit, right?
Well, actually, that's kind of how we got ahead of the power curve. I grew up in this technological generation. I'm in the generation that's between the 60s generation and the millennial generation. And what happened was, as the internet came online and things of that nature, I was in a position at 19 years old sitting in Okinawa, Japan, and a platoon sergeant came in and said, if you don't know anything about computers and the internet, you are already behind. And that was 1991, 1992, right?
True.
And so when we got the studio built, we started talking about about streaming some of the church services because we were having some issues with our sound engineer at church had to be able to run sound for the building, but he also had to be able to run sound for the church's YouTube channel. and he couldn't do both at the same time. It was just it's too big of a job, right? You need you need several personnel. But since we had this recording studio, and all of us here at the recording studio are heavily involved in participating in the worship ministry at our church, we said to our senior pastor, hey, why don't you let us take care of the mixing and stuff for your YouTube channel? We can do that here out of the studio. That way you don't overtax your sound guy, and since you don't have necessarily the resources to hire more people, we'll do that for you for free. And so when the senior pastor got on board with that, we started setting up gear to do that here, like in December of last year, January. So when the COVID thing kind of happened, we were already up and running in place for the purposes of our church. It's just that every church ended up needing something like that. And then every school ended up needing something like that. And every music instructor, everyone who had to start doing this contact by computer business, they all ended up being in need of services like that. But you want to talk about, since we're talking about Julie Talks Money, here's the deal with business. Business is always predicated on the idea that you have a product that people need and or want. You also have to get to the market before everybody else does. And that's, we're doing TED Talk out of here for the Valley area. That's one of the reasons why we're able to do that. We were already set up and ready to go. And so when other people were saying, hey, we can't have that here at this venue because of the coronavirus and this and that, the other things that might violate some of the CDC mandates that our state, city, and local governments have put in place, we were in a situation because of the natural setup of the studio where we wouldn't violate those things, but we could provide services. And a lot of our customer base, talking about how to pivot your business, a lot of our customer base recently has come to us saying, can you do this? We can offer these services. Are you open during the COVID-19 thing? Yes, we're in a situation where we can offer you, maximum protection to allow you to come get the work done that you need to do. Because we kind of got ahead of the curve by just trying to do something that we saw a necessity for our church. It just turned out because of the COVID-19 situation, it became a necessity not only for churches, but for schools and many other types of business where you normally have to do business face to face.
And I love it when, I've seen a couple of the videos that you have in a live stream for a church service, because you have a studio, you've got microphones, so it's not just a preacher who's standing there and very static. You also have the people who are musicians, or if they were going to do a guitar service, or, the music, then people are there as well to sing. And it really does feel more like you're being there in a service, which is wonderful. I didn't realize that you were already set up for that. I knew you'd been doing that since January, since we're working on a TED Talk together also. But that's definitely something that, it has an opportunity for people, yourself, of course, to keep your business open, but other people to utilize the services. Now, you're a music professor as well, and we were talking about how you are actually being able to use the studio, and other people are as well, for teaching private students. Tell us a little about that, because there's a bunch of people teaching music, teaching piano, whatever it might be, who probably have also not had their students come into their home or their studio to have their lessons in the last few weeks.
Right. And so because we have a studio, we're able to segregate the instructor from the student. And because where people may not have a setup like that at home where they have glass in the wall so you can see who's on the other side of the wall.
Right.
But then you also have a microphone set up and a speaker set up on both sides, so you can actually communicate with one another. Of course, we leave that up to the instructor. It's their preference. They can wear a mask, and the student can wear a mask, things of that nature. But we have these things called bass traps that we set up to block amplification when you're in a room together with a live band. And it just so happens, because they have glass on the top of them and they're mobile, if you have a student come in, you can set that trap in between the two of you to provide some more separation while you're teaching your lesson. So a lot of the equipment that you normally would have every day at a studio turned out to be very useful for this situation we're in. And because of that, we've had instructors who said, hey, can I come use your venue to teach my lessons out of, because I know you have this system set up that'll allow us to be compliant with our city, state, and local government restrictions regarding the COVID virus. So that'll allow me to keep working as a professor or a music instructor. And for the students, there's been a multitude of research done on the benefit, the physical, mental, and spiritual benefit of playing music. And in a
Hmm.
time like this, when people are isolated and they've got all the research to tell us how detrimental isolation is, this is something where you can be in a relatively safe environment and still have that community outreach between the instructor and the student, where you can reach out to your community and still feel connected. But yeah, that's what we're doing here with the music lessons. We're able to actually have the students in here to actually get their lessons, so we can continue working on. To be successful in business is not the idea that you avoid hardship or that you avoid conflict. Is that you're able to take the hardships and the conflict and then turn them into, like you said, you're able to use those things to help you pivot your business model so that you can continue to grow. You take that which you're given, you take what's in your hand, and you throw it at the situation.
That's true. And that
You
requires a
know,
little creativity, but also there's a lot of opportunity that I think in a lot of ways we just don't see until
yeah,
something kind of pushes us into a new way of looking at things and looking at what it is that we've got and how we can make use of it. Right?
yeah,
This is one of those
that's
times
exactly what we
certainly
did
that
here.
people have been able to either do a side hustle or learn a new skill or
Yeah,
a new language, if you want to call it that, because actually having the opportunity to sit down and spend time on something in a concentrated period that we probably haven't been able to do. That's even a personal pivot in your own life, right? But for
correct.
you, obviously having that studio and having the equipment there, being able to offer something that most people, like music teachers or private students, never thought that they might need or want.
It was unfathomable how deep the situation is. The Peabody
Hmm.
Music Conservatory, Juilliard, several of the leading music conservatories in the world all had to go. They all had to start thinking about how do we use modern technology platforms to help teachers adjust teaching music. And the interesting thing for us is we were already set up to do that, just because we were trying to solve our own little personal issues here at the studio. That inadvertently put us in a situation where, when everybody else was trying to figure out how to do and what to do, we had already been doing it. And so we were able to get ahead of the curve. And because of that, some places that lost business, we've actually been able to pick up their business. Some places that didn't know how to continue in business, we were able to come in and say, hey, this is what you need to do to get your business back online and get your business back on track, as far as studios and music teachers. And we've been out talking to some of the schools, because they're most likely going to start school underneath the coronavirus restrictions. And schools don't necessarily have money to continually keep building more infrastructure on a regular basis.
Hmm.
And so
Right.
we're in a position to offer them a situation where they can come in, they can take the students, and still be able to have, your band rehearsal, still be able to conduct lessons with the students, and have us come along with our expertise and help even give the students private lessons and help with their musical development and help with the development of the different music programs that the school system is offering. But you're right. These are the things that you do to stay in business. When situations or circumstances occur, they force you to have to figure out some things maybe you didn't have to figure out before.
And it sounds like you've done a great job with that. And plus the fact that you have the recording studio as well as the television studio and a setup for that makes it different, separates you out, I think, from a lot of other people that might just have a recording studio where people have gone to record their music or their vocals, stuff. You offer a whole lot more. And even if you didn't, I bet you probably would have started just because you have the space, just so you'd be able to
Well,
have
yeah.
something else to offer.
You and I've had several conversations about multimedia, and the issue is, if you're not in video at this point in time, you're dead. We love radio because radio is sort of like snail mail. A lot of people thought the post office was going to be out of business when the internet came along, but they had done their research. They knew that every time a new technology for communication of some sort came along, it exponentially increased the business of the post office. And so the
Hmm.
post office is now delivering more mail than they ever have before.
Right, and
and
everybody
so,
thought, as you said, that the disruption of the internet and email was going to take that out, and also that people were not ever going to be having junk mail in their inbox, in their mailbox. But I'll tell you that I still have as much junk mail coming into my mailbox as I ever did. There's still companies that are
right.
doing direct mail marketing, and as a matter of fact, more of them are a little successful now than they were before because people are actually looking at their junk mail because they're looking for the businesses and the coupons that are still working and how they can
Right.
utilize maybe some freebies.
Correct. And so the situation you end up in with video and radio is a lot of people. There used to be a song in the '80s that said "Video killed the radio star," and
Hmm.
in one situation that may have been true, but in another situation, the internet, the satellite, all those things provided new platforms for radio. Video provided new platforms for radio, and so we're seeing the radio industry take off again. It's not the traditional form of radio where you have your car and you have an antenna, but we're still doing that. But we're seeing satellite radio, we're seeing internet radio, which is essentially what podcasts are, right? That's it's internet radio. All of our
Exactly.
radio
And
stations
just
that
like
are
now, just like
traditionally
we're doing right now.
right.
And I would
And
love to talk to you more about this. I could talk on and on with this, but we're going to have to take a quick break here and then move on to my next guest. But I really appreciate so much your coming and talking about your business and one ways that you've pivoted your business in the course of this disruption. And I think what you're doing with the churches is fantastic also, and allowing people and shut-ins and whoever else may not be able to get to a service to actually still follow along with whatever it is that they want with their church and their spiritual life. Thank you so much, Clayton, for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you again and also seeing you again at Shelter Studios.
Yes, thank you, Julie. Hey, if anybody's out there who wants to use the studio for services, you can reach us at 951-515-1100 or at Shelter Studios with the Z at gmail.com. Again, the number is 951-515-1100. Thank you so very much, Julie, for having us. We really appreciate you and look forward to seeing you again next week. I'll probably see you next week.
All right, that's great. Thanks, Clayton. Have an awesome day.
You do the same.
That's great. You're listening to Julie Talks Money on KMET 1490 AM radio. Stay with us. We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Julie Talks Money. I'm your host, Julie Phelan, and on this show every Friday, we talk about different things having to do with your finances and your money life. And today we're talking about how COVID-19 has affected everybody and their businesses and what it is they've been doing and if they've been able to find a new way to pivot their business, to find a new way of doing things and keep money coming in and keep maybe their businesses going and maybe help other people in the process. So my next guest is somebody who has found a way to do that. She works with real estate and with real estate investors, and she had been very active in vacation rentals and Airbnb. Now, I'm sure you've read and heard a lot about Airbnb crashing, not exactly crashing, but people are not renting places because they're not sure about what people have done to keep the place disinfected and safe. And rentals have really, 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 really tumbled other stuff. So we're going to talk with my guest about that. Amanda Williams is coming to us from North Carolina this morning. And actually, it's afternoon her time. We're going to talk about that. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Julie. So nice to talk to you. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, I'm thrilled that you were able to make it. We've talked a lot about what has happened in the investment real estate market, and that's one of the things that you work with and have worked with investors, including people from California, along with another gal who's out here that we both know. And North Carolina, you've got a lot of places. I don't think Hilton Head is not there, right? But the Outer Banks and several other places, and obviously Duke University. So tell us a little bit first what you had done with your Airbnb business and for yourself and for investors.
Yeah. So we started an Airbnb business a couple of years ago, and we grew it up to, we had 14 or 15 properties when COVID hit us. And we were doing well, We were marketing to people who are relocating to this area because I also run a real estate brokerage here. And everything was great, and COVID hit, and we had $40,000 of cancellations come across the books in 2 days.
Good heavens.
Yeah. needless to say, we freaked out a little bit.
Yeah, I
But
can imagine.
a week later, we figured it out, and we've actually turned our Airbnbs more into 30-day rentals, 30, 60, 90-day rentals. Some of these people we've had since COVID hit, and they're not leaving. And now they're like, well, this is much better than New York, so I'm going to buy a house here and just stay. So it's been interesting, it's the way that we had to pivot.
Now that's different because Airbnb people usually are there for 2 to 7 days or 2 weeks, right? I mean, much shorter than 30 days. Wasn't your
Yeah.
average? What was your average stay for a guest among all those
Our
properties?
average stay, yeah, I would say 4 to 5 days. We've always had a 3-night minimum just because we didn't want the weekend partiers. We've always, really strived for people who are coming for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you've switched that to the 30 days. So what has happened as far as the customer base is concerned? How are you finding people who are wanting to do a 30-day minimum, and where are they coming from, and what reasons do they have for 30, 60, or 90-day rentals?
So it's actually a beautiful thing. Number one, we post them on Zillow now. So we're right on there with all of the other houses for sale and other homes for rent that are not furnished, by the way. All of my properties are completely furnished. All of the utilities, everything is included. And so we've been marketing on Zillow. However, we've also built our brand here as well. So all of the local real estate agents know who we are. And really, it's word of mouth at this point. And I'm doing a lot of social media marketing as well to drive new people in. So you ask why they're coming. A lot of them came, they were actually some of them, 3 of them were in our properties when COVID hit. And so those people were from New York, Connecticut, other areas, and they were like, well, we're not going home. And so they've been with us ever since. The ones that we are getting in now, I do a really good job of marketing to people who are looking to move to this area. And as you may know, Raleigh, we are getting over 70 people a day moving into Wake County. And
what?
so
70 people a day? That's amazing. Now that's Raleigh,
yeah.
Durham, and what are the other areas there in that triangle?
Yep, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. That's
Hill.
the area. Wake.
Oh, so you cover a couple different university areas.
We do. We have properties in 9 different towns around Raleigh.
Wow. And these are, now what kind of properties are they? Are they condos? Are they houses? Are they, large houses, small, all kinds of different things? Sizes?
Well, we concentrate on no HOAs. So we have migrated more towards single family homes in nice neighborhoods, or maybe not in a neighborhood at all, because we don't deal with HOAs at neighborhoods either. So the majority of our homes are 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. We do have a little 1-bedroom log cabin that stays rented, but the majority of our homes are single family. I just don't want to deal with HOAs. They can change the rules at any time, and I just don't want to deal with that.
I don't blame you. That it can impact your cash flow too. You and I have talked about it because I've had corporate rentals for years in the Kansas City area where there's a lot of corporations, just like with Raleigh, Durham. And when somebody can come in and they don't have to pay deposits for electric or for gas or for whatever it is, they don't have to do a first and a last month's rent, all these other things that go into renting a place, not to mention signing a 1-year lease, right, or 6-month lease. Having a short-term rental, I imagine, in that area especially, is really something a whole lot of people are real thrilled with. Especially when you can walk in and you've got dishes, you've got spices, and just like a timeshare, you've got everything you could possibly need.
Yeah, exactly, Julie. I mean, we have people coming into the area, and they know that we have properties pretty much all over the areas of Raleigh, and so they'll be like, hey, we want to stay a week or 2 in the Chapel Hill location, and then a week or 2 in the Clayton location. And so it gives them an opportunity to really get into that neighborhood and see if that's a good fit for them. Because when someone's moving here from California, they don't know where to land. They don't know whether to go to Cary or Apex or Fuquay or Wake Forest, all of these little areas that are surrounding Raleigh, which, could be an hour away from each other, and it's a totally different vibe. And so it's nice to be able to come and just kind of, experience those different neighborhoods.
How true. When you go into some place and you have to sign a year's lease, you may end up hating that within the first month because you didn't have an opportunity to check it out. So these are families then primarily who are going there and using your rentals?
They are, yes.
Now, you wouldn't have thought there'd be that much demand for that kind of thing and for families to do. But it's almost like you're inventing a new market for people for relocation.
Yeah, it just makes sense because who I don't like going to hotels anymore. Like I stay in Airbnbs because I would rather have my own bedroom, my own bathroom, be able to cook breakfast, be able to go make myself a pot of coffee, not in the hotel room. And
Hmm.
so it's a different feeling, and really it's cheaper than staying in a hotel. Like if you really look at the prices, hotel versus Airbnb short-term rentals, then you're paying less and you're getting a way better setup.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you'd be talking about 100, 150, 200 a night at a hotel. That'd be 6,000 a month or 3,000. And to
Exactly.
have a house that you can rent and actually use a kitchen and everything else for your family, people having bathrooms, place to put your car, that's
Yep.
even cheaper. Now, as an investor, putting on the investor hat, what do you do to make sure that you're maintaining the cash flow and also maintaining the properties and having the COVID sanitation protocols in place for people to feel comfortable going into your properties?
Great question. So, as far as that goes, I mean, that's another reason why we were really liking this more long term because we don't have to flip the property. And
Hmm.
so, if we do have to, then we do let it sit for most likely 2 days. We just let it sit, and then we'll have the cleaning guys go in, get it all cleaned up, and then it'll sit for another day or two, just to make sure there's nothing in there. And then, of course, they're doing all the protocols with the gloves and the mask and the tons and tons of Lysol. I think we should buy stock in Lysol. So yeah, I mean, you really have to do that. But I think we've just been, real lucky, and also getting in front of the market and just being branded and being known for what we do in our local area. And at this point, it's word of mouth. And so, I do have a lot of investors that are coming to me now because all of these properties are our properties. Like we either own them or we have done master leases. So we've actually leased the property from the landlord, and then it's just like we're the tenant, right? But we're just subleasing
Hmm.
that out. But at this point, we're having landlords come to us and say, hey, I want to partner with you on this. And so we're kind of scratching our head like, how can we partner with some of these more investors that are looking to purchase in this area, but maybe they don't want to do a long-term rental. They want to do short-term, but they can't really manage short-term because they don't know how. So partnering up with them and maybe making a percentage of the profits or something. I don't know. We're throwing it around right now, but that's
Yep.
something that will most
It's another
likely
way
get
of
us there.
pivoting, right? A new business thing that an alternative you're going to figure out. So, what is the difference between a regular, like if you were going to be buying a house as an investor for a long-term rental, a one-year lease kind of thing, versus what you might be able to make doing these short-term rentals as an investor and the cash flow that goes with it? Give us an
Double.
example.
um, so I'll put it this way: back here, you can get a nice property for $200,000. That property would rent for, let's just say, $1,500, just averages, right?
On a regular
Um,
rental?
yes, on a regular
Okay.
long-term rental,
Okay.
and that's a good property. That would be long-term. If you put that up as a short-term rental, then you would be able to bring in probably around $100 a night. And so you're looking, with vacancy and everything, I'd say 2,700 ish, not including cleaning fees, by the way, because that's
Hmm.
another
Those are
thing
extra
that you
good.
can make money on. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at pretty much doubling your income off of that property.
And that's amazing. And when you talk about a return on your investment,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
even the
that's
cost of the
obviously with
utilities
you
probably is not
managing it.
that much.
No, not really. No, I mean, on average, I would say our properties, we are generating between $700 and $1,200 a month profiting on each of our properties.
Now that really beats the heck out of a long-term rental when you have a tenant that's going to sit there and also beat up the property, and you don't know if they're cleaning it properly, you don't know if they're maintaining it properly. I'm a huge fan of this kind of thing. Now, if I have an investor, I have a couple of coaching students, they're looking at properties in different areas. And if I were to send them to you or to North Carolina to talk about the short term rental and they decide or they thought they might want to do that, how do you help them? And what kind of network do you have to help them get the property set up and furnished?
Yeah, so great question. I have agents everywhere. So I'm with a cloud-based real estate firm. So we actually have a large team out in California. We have a huge team here in the North Carolina area, all over North Carolina. And so a lot of investors are actually 1031ing their money out of their properties in California and into North Carolina. We're finding that the majority of them are looking for single-family homes for long-term rentals. And so
Can you give me just do a quick little explanation of what a 1031 is for those who don't know?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. So a 1031 exchange is an opportunity for an investor to sell a property. Let's just say they have $1 million property in California. They would be able to sell that property and have a certain time limit to be able to identify and purchase a property in North Carolina and not have to pay capital gains taxes. So it's a genius way of moving your money around. And that can be
multiple properties too, right?
It can be, yeah. And you could actually go from a single family in California to buying a multifamily. As long as it's real estate, you're fine.
That's fantastic. You know, I am a huge fan in saving money on taxes that included. You do that. Okay, Now go on with what you were saying as far as getting a property set up.
Yeah, so we get the property set up. If it's going to be a long-term rental, we have property management companies here on the ground that are great. And then, like I said, we're still playing with the idea of co-hosting with some of these landlords. We do have our business set up. So as far as like setting up the properties, we have relationships with a lot of wholesalers for furnishing the properties. We get everything fairly cheap. It's costing us, on average, about $10,000 per property to get into it, and that's with us, like I call it arbitraging, so pretty much master leasing the property. But we're spending about $6,000 to $7,000 on furnishing the property, and then the other money is the the security deposit, and then first month's rent. So that's about how much it's costing to get into a property.
And getting it ready and turnkey. That's actually really pretty cheap. And for those who don't know what a master lease is, that's basically when you go in and you're saying, hey, I am going to be your tenant, Mr. Owner, and I will be the only one you have to deal with. And then you turn around and lease it out to other people. And so, like, that's what Amanda's talking about with the arbitrage. You get the thing that's the difference between what it is that you're paying the owner with the lease that you have and what you are leasing the property out for.
And
pretty good explanation there.
Really, that's exactly right, Julie. And the landlords love it because they're not having to pay for property management. We are taking complete control of these properties. If anything breaks under a certain amount, we fix it. We don't bug them. We pay them. And they love it because they know that at any point in time when that property is empty, they can go in and look at their property, and it looks like they could put it on the market that day for sale. I mean, they're gorgeous. And so they love that.
I'm sure that's because you're cleaning it, you're maintaining it, you're seeing it every time somebody moves out in 30 or 60 days and able to keep it fresh and maintained for the next person to come in.
Yep, exactly.
Good. Well, if anybody out there is interested in learning more about it, they can contact me and I'll put you in touch with Amanda so that she can talk to you about the properties that they have and cash flow, all these different things where you might be able to make up to $1,400 a month, $1,500 a month in net cash flow on a small mortgage payment. So it's amazing when you think about a $200,000 house when you're coming from California. So you can call me at 626-460-1188. That's 626-460-1188, and I'll be sure to put you in touch with Amanda. Hey, Amanda, we got to scoot now. I really hope you'll come back. I love talking to you, and I love your energy, and it's been fantastic having you as a guest and learning about what you guys are doing and changing and pivoting away from Airbnb into a new way of doing business and making the same or even more money.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Julie.
You bet. Look forward to the next time. Have an excellent Everybody who listens to me and has for a long time knows that I'm a big believer in real estate as being one of the anchors and the cornerstones of your investment policy. And that is because real estate is there, it is solid, it's subject to the values and the valuations and the vagaries of the market, of course, but it's not nearly as volatile as the stock market. You can invest in Bitcoin, you can invest in gold, you can invest in a lot of other assets, but real estate is one of the tried and true methods that people have used to build wealth. And there actually are more opportunities now than there were before because we have a mobile society, we have people who are vacationing, we have people who are putting their properties up for rent for short-term rentals, like Amanda was talking about. It's a bit of market disruption, and a lot of the things that make it possible are the technology and the internet, as we talked about before with Clayton, and as we know just from our own personal lives. You don't have to call a travel agent. You can actually go online, whether it's Zillow or something else, if you're looking to find a property, to buy a property, or to rent a property, or in the case there in North Carolina, to look at a property that you might be able to rent for 30 or 60 or 90 days while you get the idea and the feel of the community and get to drive the area. Because if you've ever moved, and I know a bunch of you have, how long did it take for you to actually find the places that you might want to do business with, or where your favorite restaurant might be, even if it's a favorite chain restaurant? How close are you to cultural events, auditoriums, theaters, universities, cities, if you want that? There's all kinds of different things that you can't really know until you've spent some time in a location. And if you've had properties that you had for Airbnb, Airbnb has changed the requirements for a lot of properties. In Los Angeles, you cannot rent a property if you have an apartment without your landlord's consent. If it's a rent-controlled property, you're not allowed to rent it out at all, period. End of story, because Airbnb's cut into the hotel businesses so much in Los Angeles that hotels have had to try and find a new way of doing things. And believe it or not, there are several hotels that are offering some kind of longer-term rentals for cheaper too. We all know Residence Inn, Candlewood Suites, several different things. But like Amanda was talking about, you get to save a heck of a lot more money over the cost of doing that. Plus, you've got space that you can spread out and your family can enjoy it. And I suspect in some areas, you might even be able to have a pool that you can use if you have a higher-end house that you're renting. That's good. These are some of the different things I want you to think about, and that we talk about if you're a coaching client or if you're doing a consultation. What is it that you can do to change how you're doing business and still remain in business? One of the things also that I am doing in that regard, especially having to do with real estate, is creating a portable COVID-19 essentials kit for realtors and for buyers and sellers and renters. Because let's face it, that's one of the big concerns that we have right now, isn't it? What is it that you can do to keep yourself and your family safe if you're going to look at a home to buy? If you're a real estate agent, what are you going to do to keep your clients safe going to look at a house? And also, if you're a real estate agent or a seller for a property, how are you going to make sure, to the best of your ability, that people who are coming in to look at your house are not going to touch anything, not going to contaminate everything? So now we have new responsibilities. A realtor, real estate agent is going to have to make sure that they go along with whatever the state protocols are by opening doors so that nobody has to touch doorknobs, opening cabinets, letting everybody, making sure they sign a form that they agreed not to touch things. Closets have to be open, and that the visit is going to be short. But then they have to also be able to disinfect the property, make sure that the clients are safe, make sure they're not putting in. So we put together this kit, this essentials kit that a real estate agent can keep with them, but we've also found different hair salons that are interested in it too, and barbershops. And in that kit, which we're putting together, we have actually an Indiegogo campaign to help finance the fulfillment of these kits and creating it, because right now it is in the prototype stage. But it will include disposable foot coverings, disposable gloves, disposable face masks or masks that people can take with them, hand sanitizers, disinfectant sprays, face shields possibly. And these are all going to be in a package that will also include a garbage bag, so that when anybody leaves that property, you know that these gloves, booties, and everything else are being disposed of properly, so they're not going to be sitting in the house, laying in the house in a trash can somewhere. It's all going to be part and parcel of the kit that you have, so you walk away with the disposable items and make sure that you keep the seller of the house safe, as safe as possible. So that's one of the things, and I hope you'll check that out. I'll let you know about the name of the Indiegogo campaign, but you can probably look it up now at COVID-19 Essentials Kit. So stay tuned for that. I'll give you more information about that. If you're interested in that, you can then pre-order it. Again, if you're interested in any of the things that we've talked about or wanted to talk to any of the people that have been guests on the show, please call me. And that's for any of the guests who've been on anytime. Call me at 626-460-1188. That's 626-460-1188. I will talk to you next week. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and be prosperous. This is Julie Phelan. Bye-bye.